Good evening, everybody. Hell's Unicorn here once again, and I'm just reacting to the news that I just got that apparently Fox News is going to be discontinuing Glenn Beck's 5 o'clock slot. This is entirely unsurprising given that Fox News, while more than willing to give second chances to people that have been fired from other networks, nonetheless has a bottom line to take care of, and when the corporate sponsors leave, so too does the talent, or lack thereof. I'm going to state for the record that from the very moment that Fox News took on Glenn Beck, I was not particularly impressed. I was somewhat familiar with his routine from his radio show, occasionally tuned in here or there, heard some somewhat half-assed comedy routines mixed with a little bit of mainline / neocon conservatism. Nothing really to write home about. I mean, it's the guy is definitely no Jack Hunter. Let's just put it that way. He's pretty big on melodrama, and what substance that he does provide is unfortunately tainted by that. And as much as I agree with him on some things, particularly with regards to the guy who's currently going around calling himself the president, it's necessary for me to state again and again, just so that everything is clear, I'm not really a big fan of the guy, and I don't consider him a libertarian, even though he keeps calling himself one. He has just recently come upon this notion of being a libertarian ever since coming onto the Fox News show, after having conversed with Ron Paul a couple of times, and he hasn't really researched the ideology all that much. I mean, there are some things that he has in common with libertarians by being a default conservative, but beyond that, it's very little apart from accepting the label. And so my reaction to him getting fired is kind of indifferent. But what I'm not indifferent to is the reason why he was fired and the reason why he lost most of his sponsors for his time slot. And that was apparently the statement that he made asserting that our current president has a deep-seated hatred against white Americans. Now, most people, upon hearing that, are very shocked that he would use such strong language. I, on the other hand, being somebody who has actually read both of Barack Obama's books, am actually shocked that people are shocked. I mean, all you have to do is just read from cover to cover Dreams from My Father, and you'll get a very clear image of how the guy thinks. I'm going to read a couple of short passages from this, and I've actually provided a link in the description so that all of you can read these yourself, and you can cross-reference it. Pick up a used copy of the book and get educated. That's all I'm going to say if you haven't read this guy's book already. All right, here's the first quote. This is taken from page 101 of Dreams from My Father. And this is basically a comment where Obama dismisses campus radicals with whom Obama shared somewhat as of an affinity as being white and tenured, and then Obama is citing that he needed to show loyalty to the black masses. And the context of this basically shows that he was not talking about satanic rituals either. Okay, here's the quote. But this strategy alone couldn't provide the distance I wanted from Joyce or my past. After all, there were thousands of so-called campus radicals, most of them white and tenured, and happily tolerated. No, it remained necessary to prove which side you were on, to show your loyalty to the black masses, to strike out and name names. What we have here is a very clear and open assertion of black nationalism, and with it a little bit of hostility towards being associated with white people. Now, maybe that's not enough for most of you, so I'm going to read one more for you. And this is Barack Obama talking about another African-American classmate in a very denouncing manner, because he had a quote-unquote white girlfriend and presumably was a bitter clinger to his guns and religion, and a white trash sort who liked country music. Here we go. Here's the quote. Tim was not a conscious brother. Tim wore argyle sweaters and pressed jeans and talked like Beaver Cleaver. His white girlfriend was probably waiting for him up in his room listening to country music. And that's also taken from Dreams of My Father. And you'll notice the mocking tone here. Unlike Glenn Beck, I do not have corporate sponsors, and I'm not afraid of being called a racist because I know a lie when I hear one, especially when it's coming from a brain-dead twit like the ones that put this guy into office. All right. And then, for everybody else out there who still is not convinced of this, I'm just going to say this again. Buy the guy's book, read it, and read it independent of all of this Obama mania, the magic voodoo shaman crap, and just read it word for word, consult the dictionary if there are some words that are a little bigger than what you're used to, and get educated. The guy is definitely someone who identifies himself with a very separate race, ergo he is race conscious, and he denounces other people who associate with other races. Ergo, he's hostile to the idea of social interaction or race mixing. I'm kind of indifferent to the whole multiracial couples thing, but when it comes to denouncing people for interacting with people of other races in a social setting, yeah, that's racist. And no, you don't get away with being racist simply because you're a minority. Racism is racism, whether you are a white man or a polka-dotted spaceman. And anyway, that pretty much sums it up for me. This was basically a two-part rant, one part Glenn Beck, one part Barack Obama. Two people that I don't like, but definitely you can tell that I dislike the latter more than the former. Take from it what you will. With prudence to myself and benevolence to all of you, good evening.